What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Chargers Analytics with Arjun. Today, we're here to talk about Trey Pipkins, what a possible contract extension or just a contract looks like for him. As we all know, he's an unrestricted free agent this year. Had a pretty solid year for us, playing right tackle. Missed some games here and there, but I think overall he was a steady force, and we could definitely feel a drop off when it was going from him to Foster Sorrell. So here to talk about Trey Pipkins and again, like what his market is and what I think he's going to get on the open market and what the Chargers could bring him back for. This will be part of a mini series before free agency opens. So I'll eventually be doing contracts for Morgan Fox, Drew Tranquil, just some of the guys that I think the Chargers should or at least consider bringing back and have a decent enough market to where it's going to be a multi-year deal that I can put together these type of contract breakdowns for. So going to start with Trey Pipkins today, and I eventually I'll get to Justin Herbert and what a massive extension could look like for him. But again, here to talk about Trey Pipkins today. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. So basically, I'm projecting a 3-year contract worth $22.5 million in total value, $7.5 million APY. It's a pretty standard deal. Again, there is a lot of market research baked into this, a lot of research about Trey Pipkins as a player baked into this. And again, to break down the contract, we are looking at a $6.75 million signing bonus, which is $2.25 million prorated over the 3 years. Following a typical Telesco and Ed McGuire contract structure, we have a low year one cap hit with escalating base salaries in years 2 and 3. So Pipkins base salary in year one is 1.5 million, goes up to 4.5 million base salary in 2024. And in his third year, 2025, he'll have a base salary of 8.75. The cap hits go in order of 3.75 million to 6.75 million to 12 million. So the last part of this deal, also, I am projecting years 1 and 2 to be fully guaranteed. And I'll get to that in a second as I explain the basis of this contract. But basically, I wanted to look at the tackle market, right? And we are looking at a specific part of the tackle market. We are looking at that like tier 3 to tier 4 tackles. And there's not a lot of tackles who really fit what Trey Pipkins is as a tackler, right? Trey had, I would say, an above average season in both pass blocking and run blocking, but he's only had one season as a full starter. As you can see on my screen, this is the most snaps he's played ever in his career, right? The other season where he played a majority of the snaps was 2020, where he was kind of filling in at left tackle or right tackle wherever there was an injury to Sam Tevi or whoever was at right tackle, right? So you can see in 2020, he was pretty bad. He had a pass blocking efficiency of 95.1. This year, it's gone up to 97.1. And in the spot starts he had in 2021, he was pretty good, I think, 98.1 pass blocking efficiency. So we have some kind of evidence for Pipkins being like a slightly above average tackle, but he's only started one full season, right? So again, in the tackle market, there aren't a ton of comparables. The only one who I think is really comparable is this guy, Chukwuma Okorafor. I probably botched his name there, but I'm just gonna call him Chuku. Chuku signed a deal last offseason for a 3-year extension, $29.25 million. So that's about $7 million more than what I'm giving Trey for $9.75 million APY. The next lowest guy in terms of in the right tackle market is La'el Collins, who signed a 3-year, $21 million deal. Now, I think most fans would say, oh, La'el Collins, he's a better player than Trey Pipkins, right? Like, why am I thinking Trey Pipkins is going to get more? I do think there is some type of bias within NFL offices where if a player gets cut, teams view them worse than if a player is coming off of their final year of their rookie deal, right? Remember, La'el Collins, he got cut from the Cowboys and then he went to the Bengals. He's also a little bit older than Trey Pipkins, right? So getting cut versus getting extended or signing a second deal on the open market are two completely different things. But I do think La'el Collins is probably a little bit better than Pipkins, or maybe they're at the same level, which is why I'm giving Pipkins just a little bit higher. So I'm giving Pipkins $1.5 million more than what La'el Collins got. So I do think Pipkins should and could end up between La'el Collins and Chuku. But I could also see him going as low as like $6 million. Again, that depends on how teams see him. And I think teams will see him as a slightly above average tackle who had 1 year of starting experience, who had put together some good tape in that 1 year. But because he only has 1 year, he's not going to get more or at the level that someone like Chuku got, who had 2 years of starting experience for the Steelers before he got his extension. So again, that's the kind of contract breakdown. We're looking at 3 years, $22.5 million in total value. Now, to kind of explain, how I got to each part of the contract, we can start with the fully guaranteed, right? So outside of the signing bonus, I fully guaranteed both of Trey's base salaries in years 1 and 2 of the deal. Now, why did I do that? Matt Filer, when he signed his 3 year deal with the Chargers, he got a very similar deal, right? $6 million signing bonus for Filer. I'm giving Trey 6.75 tackle market. You're going to have a little bit more guarantees. But Filer also got both his year 1 and year 2 deals or base salaries fully guaranteed. And that is something that this new regime with Telesco and Staley, they have guaranteed a lot more money than I think they have in the past. And so I am giving Trey fully guaranteed base salaries in years 1 and 2. You can also see this exemplified as Corey Linsley's year one and two of his 5 year deal was fully guaranteed. Gerald Everett, year 1, fully guaranteed, part of year 2, fully guaranteed, right? So the Chargers have a precedent in their specific team market of at least guaranteeing money in the first 2 years. So that's where, I'm getting the fully guaranteed there. The cap hit, again, we see a typical low cap hit in year 1 for Corey Linsley, $6.6 million on a 12.5 APY. So it's a much lower cap hit than what his APY was. Filer, $5 million on a $7 million APY. Everett, $4 million on a $6 million APY. So we are going to see a low year 1 cap hit. This might be a little low. I think this could also go up to $2 million, but I think just the way that the Chargers salary cap is in 2023, they want to keep this as low as possible, and I think doing this would allow them to do so. And again, just escalating base salaries up to the final year of a $12 million cap hit. Now let's check on how this affects the Chargers cap in 2023, right? So as you can see here, the Chargers are currently $20 million over the cap. And this obviously, like, they have to make some moves to get under the cap to sign Trey. But I inputted Trey's deal into over the cap calculator. Everything's the same, and as you can see, this would add about $3.75 million to the Chargers 2023 cap hit, right? So there isn't it's not a huge cap hit, it's not a small cap hit. I think it's like right where a typical Telesco or Ed McGuire contract would be. So I think this is a pretty good representation of what I think Trey could get on the open market, or at least for the Chargers. Again, it's tough to really evaluate what he's going to see on the open market because, again, Lyle Collins, he got $7 million APY on the open market, but you don't really see quality tackles hit the open market very often. Cameron Irving, $5 million APY. Morgan Moses, who I know a lot of Chargers fans wanted last year, $5 million APY, but those guys are also on their third and fourth deals, and they're also getting released by the second team that signed them. So again, Trey is in a very, very interesting situation because he's one of the few tackles that didn't get an extension, but is also, I would say, at least average or above average. So he's going to have an interesting market. I think he could get more on the open market if a cash heavy team like the Chicago Bears or Houston Texans are looking for a quality right tackle to, support their franchise quarterbacks, whoever they may be. But right now, I think if the Chargers bring him back, this would probably be the price it takes them to bring him back, especially since Trey, I think, will have some suitors on the open market given his age and everything he brings to the table as a run and pass blocker. One thing I forgot to mention this when I initially recorded, but I wanted to make sure to include this. The way I structured the contract, there is an out basically for the Chargers in year 3, right? So you see there's only $2.25 million in dead money. So essentially we can look at this as a 2-year, $5.25 million APY deal, which comes out to 2 years, $10.5 million in terms of, a total value. And so again, if Trey doesn't show that he's a quality right tackle in years 1 and 2, you can cut him, and it basically turns into a 2-year, $5.25 million APY deal, which is fine for an average or below average tackle. If he does produce at that, at a good level, and he makes it, he plays at a level where he warrants being on the roster for a $12 million cap hit, eventually we'll see that, like, we got Trey Pipkins for a steal, and that $12 million cap hit is a better representation of him as an above average or even like a good right tackle, right? Because tackles are worth quite a bit of money. So essentially, the deal is structured so that they have an out in year three, and it essentially turns into a 2 year deal if they choose to move on from in year three. And so again, the market in which I put Trey Pipkins in is above Lyle Collins, but below Chuku. But he could even be below Lyle Collins based on how I structure this deal. And his true APY in this scenario would probably be closer to like 6 or 7 million than it is at like 7.5 that I have it set up. But just wanted to include that right before I ended the video. Again, thanks to everyone for listening, and I'll wrap up with my other segment here. So yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for this episode, or at least this contract breakdown. Again, to recap, looking at a 3 year $22.5 million deal for Trey Pipkins in total value, 7.5 APY, 56.7% guaranteed, which again is higher than what a lot of the tackles on the market get. But the Chargers precedent the past 2 years has been guaranteeing a lot of money to these players, guys like Austin Johnson, Sebastian Joseph Day, Matt Filer. They've all gotten pretty good guaranteed structures, and I think Trey Pipkins will be a beneficiary of that when it comes to contract negotiation. So I hope this contract breakdown was helpful. People were able to take some things out of it. In terms of what I think Trey Pipkins or what the Chargers should do with Trey Pipkins, I'm kind of like they should bring him back if it's the right price. I think this would be a good price to bring him back at. I don't think I'd go anywhere above $8 million, just because again, we've only had 1 year of him having above average play. Last year it was 2 spot starts. I don't really know how to evaluate that, as well as this full year at right tackle. I think if they do sign him to this deal, you have a 5-man lineup that you will have for the next 3 years, and that continuity will be amazing to see. But again, it's all about bringing him back at the right price. And if some team is offering him $9-10 million, I think you have to let him walk in and trust Jamari Sawyer to play right tackle at least an average or above average level, like he played at left tackle this season for the Chargers. So I'm not the biggest Trey Pipkins fan, but I do think he offers some value to the Chargers if they decide to bring him back at this price that I propose. So again, that's gonna be it for today's episode. I appreciate everyone listening till the end. Stay tuned for other contract breakdowns like Drew Tranquil, Morgan Fox, and Justin Herbert, which will be super fun. And right before free agency, me, Tyler, and Steven will be doing a huge Chargers offseason prediction, or using over the cap to kind of predict what the Chargers should and could do in free agency in terms of signing external guys and cutting guys. So be on the lookout for that. But until next time, thanks to everyone for listening, and bolt up.